So I thought today I'd share with you my lemon drizzle cake recipe that I've been using for many years now. It really is pretty much like a basic Victoria sandwich with quantity, so it should be quite an easy one to make hopefully. First things first, I've preheated the oven to 160 fan, that's about 180 if it's a non-fan electric, and about gas mark 4. I've also got a tin to put this in. It needs to be like a loaf tin. You need to line it with baking paper, or if like me you've got a silicone mould for it, I don't need to line that, but if you've got a tin that is a proper tin, then line it with some baking paper and a tray to put it on so it can go into the oven. Ingredients wise then, in a mixing bowl I've got 225 grams of butter that's softened and 225 grams of caster sugar. If you haven't got caster sugar, you could use brown sugar and give that a go. It might just be a slightly sweeter flavour than this will be. If you haven't got the butter, you could use block margarine, so the hard margarine would be fine. I'm going to put this on and we're looking to just cream the butter and sugar together. We'll know when that's done when the butter goes a little bit lighter in colour and it combines with the sugar, and that will help to aerate the mixture so it will trap some air in. I'll start this off and I'll let you rejoin me when I've finished creaming the sugar and butter together. So I've creamed together the butter and the sugar. It's now looking a little bit lighter in colour and it will have trapped some air in there, which is good because we want this cake to be nice and light. Now I've got 4 eggs here, so 225 grams of butter, 225 grams of sugar, 225 grams of self-raising flour, or if you've only got plain flour, 225 grams of plain flour and a teaspoon of baking powder, or half a teaspoon of baking powder, and 4 eggs. So I'm going to add the eggs one at a time. Now to try and stop the mixture separating, each time I add an egg, I'm going to put a tablespoon of flour in with the mixture and then mix it in. I'm also just going to wash my hands every time that I handle a raw egg. And the other thing that I'm going to add in at this stage is just a little bit of vanilla. I've got some vanilla paste here. And I'm just going to add the tiniest amounts of really strong flavour on this one, but very nice. I'm going to add that in. I'm going to give it a whisk and I'm going to continue doing that for each of the eggs. When I add each egg, I'll add a tablespoon more flour, another egg, a tablespoon of flour. You can smell that lovely vanilla now just coming out, which is lovely. I'm going to add another egg here. Tablespoon of flour, whisk again, and I'm going to continue this process till I've got all 4 eggs added, and I'll let you rejoin me when I've got all 4 eggs and 4 tablespoons of flour added in. So all 4 eggs have been added now, along with a tablespoon of flour each time, and each time I added an egg I whisked. It's now looking quite nice and cake-like, and I'm now going to add my zested fruit. Now you need about the zest of 1 lemon. I've zested my lemon here, which is what I've put on a bit of I zested it onto a bit of kitchen oil so you can see there's some lemon. I also had a very sorry for itself tangerine. So what I've done is I've zested it as best I can. I'm keeping both the lemon, and I've got a lemon here which I used the other day for the zest, which I'm going to also use for juice. But I'm going to keep all of those to one side and I'm going to juice those in a bit. So once you've zested 1 lemon, or if you want to add some orange in or an extra bit of lemon, you can do that. But zest of 1 lemon, keep the hold of the fruit because you're going to need that in a little while. So the lemon, and in my case the orange, is going to go in. And then to that I'm also going to add in the rest of my flour. So whatever is left of that 225 grams of self-raising flour goes in. Going to give it another whisk and it's going to get really thick now. It's only going to take a few, probably about 30 seconds, and then it's going to be ready to put into the tin. So I'll just turn this on and off we go. Just lifted the whisk ever so slightly at the end just to make sure I got as much off the beaters as I could, so that the mix will then go into the tin rather than go into the washing up water. So I've got my loaf tin here. It's quite a large loaf tin, and sometimes you can get much smaller loaf tins. If you have a smaller loaf tin, you might need 2, or you might be able to make 2 cakes out of it in some way, whichever shape you want to make them in, but loaf tin is traditional for a lemon drizzle cake. I'm going to put the mix in here, making sure that as best I can I get it evenly in. I quite like the idea of a St Clement's cake rather than just a lemon drizzle cake. I think that'd be nice. And some vanilla in there as well. So that all goes into your tin. Now the thing with a silicone tin is it's not rigid like a metallic tin. So I often find that when this goes into the oven, the problem I have is that the tin will expand, and so my cake will often come out quite wide, and that's okay, I'm not bothered by that. We're going to put it into the oven once we've smoothed the top over, and it's going to be in there for about 45 to 50 minutes. Now sometimes mine is ready in 45 to 50 minutes, sometimes it takes longer, and the way you're going to test this to see whether it's finished or not, or ready or not, I'm just going to try and make it a little bit less deep in the middle there, because it will rise a lot in the middle. The way you're going to test this to see if it's cooked is you're going to get a skewer, and you're going to find the fattest point of the cake, which is generally in the middle where it rises most, and you'll put this in the middle of your cake and take it out. If the skewer comes out clean, then the cake is cooked. If the skewer comes out with still some sticky mess, then your cake isn't ready. So this is going to go into the oven then. I'm going to put it on a baking tray to make it easier to take out. And once this has gone into the oven, you then need to get 85 grams of caster sugar. And then to that you're going to add your juice. Now this lemon, this tiny one here, I used last week, the end of last week, for the zest. So I'm just going to squeeze that in, because the juice is still fine in it. And I did give all of these a roll like this before I went to juice them, to try and release as much liquid from them as possible. So it's a nice use of that lemon that definitely needed to use up. I'm also going to put in now, ideally you want the juice of 1.5 lemons, and I figured that this little lemon's probably half a lemon because it's shrunk in size quite a lot. I'm also going to add the orange juice as well, because the orange needed using up, and because I fancied just making a bit of a twist on it today. So I'm going to squeeze that out. There isn't masses of orange, but I'm hoping it will just be a delicate flavour of orange in the background. And then you're just going to stir this together. Now this obviously is once your cake's in cooking. I'm going to put my cake in the oven in a minute. And then this will be ready when your cake comes out, so that you will then be able to do your drizzle over the top. And I'll show you what to do with that once the cake comes out, but this can just go to one side now. Cake goes into the oven 45 to 50 minutes until the skewer that's inserted comes out clean, and then I'll bring my cake out of the oven when mine's ready, and I'll show you what the next stage is to make the lovely soak that goes over the top of the cake. I'll rejoin you in a bit. Lemon drizzle cake then, or orange and lemon cake, has been in the oven for 50 minutes. I put the skewer in the fattest point in the cake, which is about here, the deepest point in the middle. And when I took it out after 50 minutes, it still had some mixture on the inside, so it was still a bit sticky on the inside. So I put it back in the oven and gave it an extra 10 minutes. So it's had 1 whole hour in the oven, this cake. Now you can obviously make these in slightly smaller tins. If you make 2 smaller tins, they would cook in probably 40 minutes, but again, check them to make sure they're cooked. So after the hour, this has come out, and I retested it in a slightly different position, and the skewer then came out clean, which tells me that this is cooked. At this point then, you take your skewer and you make holes all over the cake, which is kind of not what you feel that you should do. Now, because this is a silicone tin, I have to try and be a bit careful, because before now, when I've been cutting up a cake in a silicone tin, I've managed to cut through the actual tin itself. So I'm trying to be quite careful and not press too far with the skewer, but I am touching the bottom of the tin. And I'm trying to be quite methodical to make sure that the holes are all over the cake. Now the reason for putting holes in this cake is that you're then going to put your mixture of the lemon juice and orange juice if you've used it and sugar mixture over the top of the cake, and these holes will allow that liquid, the soak, to soak into the cake, which will help the flavour of the oranges and lemons if you're using just lemons, to permeate through the cake, and also the sugar will help to form a nice crusty top on the cake, which is traditional with a lemon drizzle cake. So I've got my sugar and juice here, which I got ready just before I went in the oven. You could get it ready at this stage, it doesn't matter. Giving it a little stir, and then I've got a soup spoon here, so I'm able to kind of drizzle this on the top, and I just want to make sure that I get this mixture over all of the cake. So again, I want to be quite systematic how I do this. I don't want it falling over onto the tin. I want every bit of this to go into the cake, because this will help to make it smell delicious. Sorry, not smell delicious, taste delicious. It does smell delicious though, which is what I'm thinking as I'm talking. Now this is done when the cake is warm, and this soaks in, and then you need to leave the whole cake to cool in its tin, and then when it's cool you'll be able to take it out of the tin and take a slice. It does take quite a long time to cool down from past experience on this, because it is such a large cake. But again, if you've got two slightly smaller tins, you will find that they will take slightly less time. I'm going to just carefully try and get some on this little bit here without losing the soak over the edges. There we are. Oops, I don't want to lose that, it's precious. It's nice flavouring on this. And then there's some sugar here. So like I say, you now want to leave this, let it cool down. Once it's cooled down, you can take it out of its tin, enjoy a slice of it. The great thing is, if you're not normally a cake maker, lemon drizzle cakes are quite dense in texture, so if it doesn't quite go right, you can always sell it to people and just say, oh, well, it's a lemon drizzle cake, it's meant to be like that. But I'm sure if you follow the steps of the recipe, I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine with this one. It is a really nice recipe. I hope you enjoy it.